Hello, Polly. Here we are again.
My gosh, it's come round so quickly.
Hasn't it just? So today, it's episode 5. How do you feel?
I'm ready to get going.
Should we see what we can learn?
Absolutely.
So today, our guest is Adam Ramshaw, who is the head of consultancy services at Lambert Smith Hampton. Should we get him in?
Let's go for it.
So please welcome Adam. So welcome to the podcast, Adam. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me, Steph. Polly, lovely to see you.
Yep, you too.
Now, our producers tell us that you are the head of consultancy services at Lambert Smith Hampton. I Googled you earlier and it said it helps owners, investors or occupiers achieve their business goals.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think it depends what the client wants to do. So,
Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I do. So if you're a landlord or an investor, what you're probably trying to do on the whole is create additional value for your portfolio. So we'll help on that. If you're an occupier, generally what you're trying to do is maybe reduce your occupational costs, but at the same time expand your business so that you can make the platform suitable for the values of your business. So depending on what the client wants, we tailor our expertise to either generally make them more money or increase the value of their portfolio or save them cost.
And how long have you been with them?
So I joined LSH in 2011, the summer of 2011. So it's the longest place I've served, as it were.
What made you stay? Why are you still here?
Yeah, why am I still here? Yeah, I mean, it's generally it's a nice place to work. And I think over the last 13 years, what the business has been able to do is constantly evolve itself, but also the roles that I've been given. So I haven't had that sort of 7-year itch that needs to be scratched because my role has changed over the last 13 years and that's kept it fresh.
So we also know that you do quite a lot of stuff with sports. I understand you did rugby, cricket, school musicals.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything in that about what you learn taking part in some of those and how it helped to build who you are in business?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose with all of those things, the thing I generally enjoy is that kind of team thing, whether it be sports, whether it be the musical. I take much more enjoyment out of doing team sports than I do. Like I did a marathon years ago, but just like training on your own was just relentless and boring for me. But being part of a team, I take a lot of enjoyment from. I learnt doing the musical that I can't act and I can't sing either.
I was going to say,
that's going to be my next question too. Give us a song.
Oh no, that'd be terrible. Your viewing figures would plummet. I tend to approach most things, which I'll give most things a go. I'm not too bothered about making a fool of myself. I mean, I'll draw a line at some of the things, but I'll have a go at most things. And at school we were doing a end of term production of Guys and Dolls. So I put my hand forward and got one of the leading roles, actually.
You must have been good if you got picked, or someone was
bad. Everyone else was really bad.
There was a relatively shallow pool of talent, I think, at the time. Got one of the lead roles, Nathan Detroit. And it turns out that I can't sing, and my attempt at a New York accent was probably somewhere between Birmingham meets Cockney meets Mexican. I mean, it was just appalling.
I feel like this might be haunting you. Is
Yeah.
that true?
I feel like I'd like you to...
No. What I will tell you is I'm very lucky that I had some great friends from senior school. And sort of 30 years on, we still meet up and we do talk about that production. Not just to take the mick out of me, but actually we've remained friends as a result of that. And we share, it's nice to reminisce and talk about the good old days when, I had fewer responsibilities. So.
Now, we're also told that you don't suffer fools gladly. So please tell us a little bit more about what that means.
I suppose I would like to consider myself to be a relatively fair person. I have high expectations and standards of myself, and I expect others to do that. We're a professional business representing clients' interests, be that big corporates or small individuals. They've all got interests that we need to look after. And whilst it's a cliche, I think, the kind of work hard, play hard type ethos is right, which is, I want people to put in 100% of effort when they're in the business, and they should be rewarded for doing so, and they should be able to take time out of the business for doing so and enjoy that time. But when you're in, and I expect a certain level of professionalism to be there. On occasions we've had to have challenging conversations and difficult conversations. But on the whole, people respond quite positively to it, actually. And it's not that I think they've deliberately done something wrong or have deliberately not put in the effort. Actually, it's just making them aware of what's expected of them within a professional environment, and quite often being supportive rather than critical of them.
And how do you find that balance? Because it's a difficult one, isn't it? High support, high challenge.
Yeah. You've just got to find your way. Like I say, everyone's different. We spoke about it earlier on. There isn't one size that fits all. I can go into a room and get a sense of maybe the approach I have to take with one person, but it might be completely different the next day to get the best
that comes
out of
back to emotional intelligence, doesn't it? Because if you don't have emotional intelligence, you just can't read people. I think just picking up on one of the points that you said, and I feel that I have had this conversation with my team, and I'm sure for you, Steph, as well. I mean, I have very high expectations of myself, and I know that my team have very high expectations of themselves. And you can find yourself quite quickly or easily disappointed when you don't understand why others may not have those same high expectations. And that's quite common because some people are really ambitious, some people are very focused on work, and others are just what I call a steady Eddie, which every good business needs. Absolutely. They are brilliant because you don't want everybody who wants to lead the show. You need people who are brilliant at what they do. They're happy to be, continue in their role with recognition. How do you manage that from my team's point of view? And I'm sort of saying, look, if you have the same high expectations of yourself with your people, you're only going to be disappointed because you're not going to get that from everyone. How do you manage that? Because I think that as a leader, that's important to recognise.
Yeah, but I think it's that point. It's recognising that a business needs all sorts of people, and if you had a whole team and everyone aspired to get to the very top, for a period you'd probably see quite a lot of growth and quite a lot of good business development, but eventually there'd be a clash of personalities, there'd be tensions, and all of a sudden it would unravel probably quite quickly. So I think you've got to make sure you've got a broad representation in that. And for me, the way I try to deal with it is reassure those that maybe have more drive that it's recognised, be that financially, be that in terms of thanks for what they're doing. And actually there is a place for those that want to be a bit more 9 to 5, shall we say. And as long as they're also realistic about what that will mean in terms of reward, progression and everything else. And I think it's fine. Where I'm less patient is the person that doesn't want to put in the effort, doesn't want to put in the endeavour, but still wants...
Well, it comes down to will or skill, doesn't it? Because I think that's a very good expression. It's whether you can do it or you won't do it. There's generally a difference. So, we've talked a lot about the business. Can you tell us about a career-defining moment for you? Has anything happened to you along the journey that perhaps changed the way you operate or think?
There's probably two actually that spring to mind, and the one was, I know I don't maybe look old enough, but when I started, you didn't really have emails. Things came through on fax machines and that type of stuff. So when emails were coming through, you learn about a bit of the etiquette and also some of the times when you should pause before doing things. And I did, unfortunately, on one occasion, I had quite a challenging client, and he sent me an email, and I meant to forward it onto my boss to basically say, look, this client's been pretty difficult here. I can't do this. This isn't reasonable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And rather than sending forward, I spent reply.
Oh, no.
So it went back to the client. To make matters worse, I then got an out of office to say he was on holiday for 2 weeks.
Oh, no.
So it sat
Have
in
you heard of email recall? Maybe that's a new
Maybe
thing.
that didn't exist.
But when you do email recall, the first thing you do is you read the email that's meant to be recalled, don't you? I mean, you don't... it's the first thing.
I'm still not sure how it works.
Yeah,
I'm like, did it get
the first thing you
recalled?
do. So... yeah, I had to sit there for 2 weeks just going, oh no, this is so bad. And actually, in the end, the client was actually remarkably... it wasn't a strongly worded email, but I was being...
It wasn't a nice email.
Yeah.
Never put it in writing.
And actually, what the client said was that he hadn't appreciated that he was being difficult. So the first lesson learned was always check whether you're replying or forwarding an email. That's the first thing. But the second thing is... have an honest conversation with your clients. Yeah. If there is a challenging project or there is a bit of tension in the relationship, largely they don't know about it, and they're only responding to pressures that they're under themselves. So actually have an open conversation, and that'll be much better. But yeah, I was pretty anxious for 2 weeks as to
I can
what the
imagine.
outcome of that
But
might be.
I think as you get
It would
older,
have been a long 2 weeks.
what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah. Well, I probably could have got fired, but apart from that.
No,
It sounds pretty
I
bad.
mean, honestly, I think the reality is I think you all have to go through these moments to go, never write in anger. If you need, I always say to my team, if you need to write, in anger, don't send it. Just write it, save it, read it tomorrow morning.
Come back.
Either delete or significantly amend it.
Yeah, I kind of live by the overnight rule, which is
It's so good, isn't
it's
it?
in Yeah, I mean, my dad always used to say to me, I count to 10.
Yeah.
It needs to be longer than 10 sometimes.
Way longer than 10 some days.
So I think we've got a game.
We do have a game.
Is it a team game? I like team games.
I'm not sure. I can't say. I
it?
know what we're doing. Steph is very good at this.
Very, very good. So our producers have come up with some facts about Lambert Smith Hamptons.
Oh,
and you have
okay.
to tell us if it's fact or fiction, and then give us a little bit more context.
Okay.
Look at the face. So, fact or fiction, point 1. You have 15 million square footage of shopping centres managed.
Fact. Is it fiction?
No, it is a fact. I'm just messing with you.
I was like, oh.
That was my favourite part of the podcast.
Fallen over first. Yeah.
So tell us a bit more.
So we acquired a business called BTW Shields around about 2015, I think it was. Might have been a year later or a year earlier. But they have a big shopping centre team. So they're, although based in Northern Ireland, they manage shopping centres across both Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland and mainland UK. And yeah, through acquisitions of shopping centres on behalf of their clients, they've grown that portfolio. It's quite a niche area, and it's grown significantly in terms of consumer habits and customer experiences and all those sorts of things. So yeah, we're one of the leading property managers of shopping centres.
Yeah, 15 million's big. When we first read it this morning, we accidentally read 15 metres. It can't be 15 metres square.
Got this wrong.
I think my hotel room's bigger than that.
Okay, I'm up next. Okay. Is it true that LSH manages 1,000 railway stations?
I believe that also to be fact.
What does that... we've just taken new premises under some arches, and let me tell you, nightmare, don't do it.
Yeah, so for a long time now, we've had a relationship with some of the train operators like LNER and Northern Rail, and we manage not the operational train station, but the concourse area, which is sublet to a WH Smith's or a Pret a Manger or a Greggs, and we manage that area on behalf of the train operators.
Wow. I did not know that.
Wow.
The next. Fact or fiction, you advise on £16 billion worth of property each year.
That sounds like a fact.
Fact or fiction? LSH have advised every company in the FTSE 100. I mean,
Fiction.
I can answer this. Come on. I was gonna say, come on.
Fiction. I think we've advised something like 2/3 to 3/4 of the FTSE.
60% is true. You know your stuff.
Doing well.
There we go.
Fact or fiction, LSH won a Green Apple Environment Award in 2023.
I think that's correct. We certainly won. We've won a number of awards recently for the work we're doing in terms of ESG, both from our own corporate responsibility perspective, but also for clients. So whether it was that particular award, I'm not 100% sure, but certainly we have won awards in the last few years on.
So it was
ESG.
nothing to do with your contribution as well.
It had nothing to do with it. It had absolutely nothing to me at all, no.
Good to know. LSH has 20 offices up and down the UK, including Ireland.
False. We have 30 offices.
Well done.
Actually, it's 32.
Oh.
Just so I'm told. Thank you very much. That is the end of our game. You'll be pleased to hear. Steph's got a question.
Yeah, so one final question for you before we let you take a breather. Okay. We're asking all of our guests about their past experiences with interviews. So what's the best thing you've either seen or done in an interview that you would recommend to others?
Okay. Tough one. I've been very fortunate to interview lots of good people actually across the business in terms of location and sector. But there's probably one that stands out. And I interviewed a candidate who had done business studies, Spanish and Italian at university. And I interviewed her, and she came across really, really well. And then at the end of the interview, I thought, I'm going to test her a little bit. And I said, can you tell me why we should give you the job in English, Spanish, and Italian?
Wow.
And quick as a flash, she did. And
I should hope so.
and it's of absolutely no practical benefit to the role whatsoever, being able to speak those languages. And it could have been complete gobbledygook because my languages are not fantastic. Other than ordering a beer at the bar, I'm pretty limited. But to have that speed of mind and the confidence to respond, I thought she would just fit into the business fantastically. And if you're ever in a pressure situation with a client, which is quite often, you find yourself in a meeting and you don't know what they're going to ask you. You've got to respond in the right way. And the way she responded was fantastic. And needless to say, we offered her the job. And she accepted.
Sounds like a smart cookie.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing your story.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been really interesting. Thank you very much for coming.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Our next guest on the podcast is Carly Curry, who is one of the branch managers of Skipton Building Society.
Now, Carly's career has spanned both banking and the mutual sector, so we're really interested to learn about what she's learned throughout those careers.
So I interviewed someone not long ago for Skipton, and he came on and I said, tell me what you know about Skipton, because that was one of the first questions. He was like, I know that you're really big in the construction industry. I've seen all your billboards around town. And I was thinking, I said, can I just stop you? I said, we're a building society. He went, sorry, I thought it was a building company.
So we'll see you again in a month's time.
And please subscribe to Career Catastrophe, however you listen to your podcasts.
And if you'd like to leave us a review, please do on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.